Hi everyone, Nadi Hanna back with you again for more drawing fun. And today we're going to be drawing the seed of life and the sunflower, aka toroidal field, and the 12-fold geometry, also known as a dodecagon. So hopefully that intro gave you the understanding that we are drawing 2D shapes, but we're really accessing our third dimensional reality, and then the implications are far greater dimensional realities as well. So we're going to look for a minute at some of the fascinating fun play that you can have with the seed of life, and then we're going to be looking at the 12-fold geometry, which is the sunflower, which is also our toroidal field, right? And I mean, geometry toys are great, right? So they kind of help us understand and really illustrate. But, here we go. You can create this amazing magical situation that just folds together. It's all based on the circle. So, and then I think it just poofs right back up again, just like that. So it's just such good stuff. And what I want you to know about the drawing exercises is that when you sign up for the course, you have all of the PDFs, all of the geometries sequenced for you so that you can always refer back to both the video and the PDFs. Okay, I'm going to show you a little bit of the play that you can have with the seed of life. It all starts from the seed of life, which is also called the Genesis pattern. In addition to the sequences, I will include a sheet called Seed Variations, which is to show you all of the fun that you can have with this shape. And I really encourage you, once you've got the fundamental patterns, to really play around with everything else you can find in the seed, right? Here's the hexagon again, which can then be popped into a cube. You can sort of play visually with looking between the 2D and 3D version of this shape. You can also find the beginnings of the flower of life. Lots of people, once you just get them the seed, they just go on to create the flower of life, and it's a natural next step. However, it can also be challenging, so just keep in mind, one step at a time, finding the basics, finding the triangles or the tetrahedrons. So in other classes, we go a lot more into detail about what's packed into this original geometry, which gets into some amazing symbology. So I want to move pretty quickly towards these so that we can get to drawing. But all of these are to say that there's our fundamentally fabulous shapes. This shape right here is called a vector equilibrium. And I actually have an entire class dedicated to this shape because it creates this perfect point of singularity, this perfect point of stillness there in the center. And that is the geometric location for where metaphysics and physics meet, because this point right here is simultaneously a point of singularity, a black hole of infinite potential energy, as well as the point of stillness that meditation practitioners and yogis seek in their internal practices. So really, really cool stuff in this tiny little seed formation with 7 circles. This is called an icosahedron. I'm going to get into this geometry in later classes. And infinitely fun pattern recognition and play in this shape. So now we're going to get into seeing the sunflower and the shape that comes from 2 seeds built on top of each other. So here are the overlaid seeds, very, very user-friendly. We're going to get right into it. And here is the shape with that center circle taken off of it so that you get a deeper sense of dimensionality. And then here is the 2D form into 3D. You saw this on the intro video. And this is to remind us that we are accessing the 3D electromagnetic, alive, vibrational field of our physical reality, right? So all of these shapes, as we draw them, the invitation is to see if you can play with the next level of the geometry, the alive, flowing action of our electromagnetic field that is taking information in and generating information out never-endingly while we are on this planet. And everything has an electromagnetic field, including planets, including galaxies, including different parts of our body. Our brain has an electromagnetic field and our heart has an electromagnetic field. So we're building this awareness. We're moving from the paper to our bodies, to our energetic fields, and expanding our consciousness. all of this is to try and summarize how much is happening when we're drawing the geometry. And just a shout out to the crop circles, which also mirror the geometry and the fundamental patterns of our reality. It's everywhere, and I will continue to come up with a crop circle galactic aspect of the presentation throughout the entire series, so you can look forward to that. The last thing I like to do is share some art with you so that you can begin to open your neural pathways and imaginings into the infinite potential of these shapes. That's so beautiful. The choices of how to play and how to draw with the geometry are just really infinite. And I highly encourage you to go online, go to Pinterest, just go for a search for sunflower and 12-fold geometries, and just start to get thinking about the possibilities and get your creative juices flowing, because this is part of why you set this time aside for yourself, was to allow for whatever wants to arise, for whatever creative, colorful expression you could imagine. And it gets us imagining. It gets these aspects of ourselves that have laid dormant most of the time to start generating, to start dreaming and creating entirely new realities. So I want to congratulate you on your commitment to stepping into the next level of your reality. Let's get to it. Hopefully you've got all of your drawing materials. You've got your compass, ruler, eraser, and pad of paper. So normally in a class, I would ask who's worked with a compass before, but this is a different reality. So if you've worked with a compass before, spectacular. If not, you're in the majority. And hopefully you will be able to have patience with yourself in this new process that you're learning, because our minds tend to think, oh, it's just a compass, I'm just drawing circles. It takes a minute to get used to how it feels in your hand. And I want to really encourage you to start with good technique, right? You saw that I recommend these compasses, and I really do. The thing that you want to do is learn, especially on this compass, learn to hold the compass from what I lovingly call the nubby, right? So if you hold your compass this way, you will pinch the compass together and you will change the width of your circles. You always want to make sure that the compass point and pencil are level. So you don't want to have like a hugely long pencil tip. Make them level. And there's two techniques that seem to work from my experience. The one tried and true technique is the move the paper under the compass technique, and you will always get a very solid circle. So that is one way to do this. The second way is to move the actual compass. Now, I recommend having a lot of pieces of paper underneath you, and that's for anchoring the compass point really strong, because then you want to avoid the slipping out of the compass, which is just an inevitable part of things. So best technique is to anchor the compass point really solid and then tilt it away from you and then drag the pencil behind you, right? Holding on with the nubby and the top part in any compass that you have and tilting away from you, and then a soft, gentle dragging of the compass, right? The thing you want to try to avoid is the straight up and down, because then you're going to get a little bit janky. It's going to be harder to make the circle happen, and you might even push your pencil into the compass. Also, you want to start with a nice wide width, right? The smaller the radius on the compass, the harder it is to draw circles initially. So I like to keep it at about a width minimum to start with. Big circles are more fun. Little ones, not yet. So let's take a minute to practice and just get a feel for the compass and how it is to move it. Try maybe a big circle, and then, smaller circles. Again, not going for super small. And just practice as I'm saying a couple things about the process of drawing. Drawing sacred geometry is its own form of art therapy, because there is so much neutrality in the geometric patterns that it reflects back our own process to us. We're not picking up anything from the geometry. We are simply reading into and witnessing our own process. So if you've been raised in any kind of human culture, you will likely have been indoctrinated with some program of critical voice. And so the invitation is throughout this entire process, if you are drawing, when you are drawing, and critical observations come up, my invitation to you is to also find something you're doing well. At the end of classes, I will invite everybody to show and share their geometries. And inevitably, the first thing they say is, here's what's wrong with it, right? Oh, here's where I did this wrong. Well, okay, we're probably not going to change those patterns overnight. But do consider, if you catch yourself doing that, just do the flip side and say what you like about it. And in that way, you're balancing, you're moving more into harmony. We may not be able to change overnight, but we can at least add the complementary aspects and create that harmony. It's so deep. The geometry goes so deep. So hopefully we've got the materials and we're ready to draw, and we've got a little bit of technique going. So let's get into drawing the seed of life. Now, with every geometry that I guide you through, I am not a precision center of the page locator, which is to say I'm an eyeballer for the center of the page. Now, if you would like more precision, you can take a moment, pause the video, and measure to the center of the page. But most of these geometries are so user-friendly and easy that you don't need the precision. You'll get the geometry if you eyeball it. That's another thing that's fun about the geometry. It's very forgiving. You can actually have a very wide margin of error and still get the end result. So let's open your compass to about a 2-inch width. Okay, so a 2-inch radius, and that's going to give us a 4-inch diameter. And the diagrams on your screen are going to be starting at the top and taking up the entire page with the progression, but you want to start in the center of your page. Okay, so you're going to put your compass down in the approximate center and you're going to draw your first circle. And then a user-friendly technique is to take your pencil and darken in the center of that circle, because we're essentially going to build the geometry around that center circle. It's a nice analogy for the inner practice of remaining centered and having life build around you. So you've got that first circle, and now we're going to take your compass and put the compass point at the bottom center of the first circle, right? Now, you can technically start the shape anywhere on the perimeter of this circle, of your first circle. But throughout this class, you're going to see me start in the bottom center and then build that second circle. So when you get the second circle, it creates this shape, which is called the Vesica Piscis. And this is an extraordinary geometry in and of its own right. There is so much math in that little oval. You cannot possibly imagine. We're not going to go into it just yet, but just know for now that this is a very, very important shape that comes from these two circles merging. So the geometry is always showing us where to go next. And this intersection of circles has given us these 2 points, right? And we're going to build clockwise. I recommend always building in one direction. I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. But go ahead and put your compass point at this intersection, and that's going to give you your third circle. So here, as that third circle gives you the intersection point with the original circle, right? We're moving around that original circle. So go ahead and put your compass point here at that intersection, and that's going to give you your fourth circle, right? And now you can start to see this pattern where you're just repeating that process of drawing the next circle and getting the next intersection point. So your compass then goes here to create the fifth circle. And here you can see some bilateral symmetry. You know, you've now finished half of the circle. And that fifth circle that you just drew is going to give you another intersection point. So that's where you put your compass. And now you've got 6 circles and you're nearly complete. You want to go ahead and put the next compass point here and complete the seed of life. At any point that you're drawing, there is a partnered experiential process. So you're sitting here with your mind trying to get the shape right and follow instructions. But there is also that energetic physical embodied experience of connecting with the geometry and breathing life into this two-dimensional shape, which we've seen really has implications for the third dimension. So here's your seed of life. Let's take a nice deep breath together before we get into the sunflower. So you've got your seed, and now we're going to draw another seed on top of this one, although with a slight pivot. So the dotted lines on the shape that you can see are guidelines only. We're not going to draw a full line. You're only using the ruler to get these intersection points, right? So the only thing you want to do is make a mark on that inner circle where the ruler that bisects the shape intersects with this circle, the inner circle. So you're going to use the divots on the outside of the shape. You're going to use the divots to line up where the ruler goes through the center of the shape, right? And it's going to go between the inner petals, right? And you're going to bisect it 3 different times. So you're going to get 6 dots all together, right? So again, not drawing the line, but only going for these points where the lines would intersect with the circle. And then you're going to use these 6 points as your compass points. So you build with 1, and then you'll start to see how the circle that you draw intersects with that compass point that you just drew. And you will end up with this shape. Once you get to practicing drawing and mastering the pencil on the paper and the compass, you can begin to go into the more meditative aspects of it, right? You can begin to take a breath as you draw a single circle and make it a breathwork practice if you choose. You can begin to embody the drawing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the geometry we've just drawn to create matching coordinates for the 12-pointed star so that you can see the relationship of the circular divine feminine to the linear divine masculine. So using this shape, we're going to indent the paper with the compass into the next piece of paper behind it. So we're using this geometry to guide the next one that will come on the page underneath it. Okay, you're going to use your ruler. Again, these are just guidelines, so we're not actually drawing lines, but you're going to be bisecting the shape again, cutting the shape in half, and you're going to use these inner petals to line the ruler up through the shape, and you're going to make a mark. You're going to make a pencil mark on the outside of the shape. You're going to make points, pencil points, on the perimeter of the shape, right? Using the ruler to cut the shape in half, using the inner petals as guidelines, right? And finding these points on the exterior of the shape. So you're just making little pencil points there. You're marking the shape as you go around. And then once you've done all 12 points, then you want to take your compass and make a strong indentation on those 12 points. So you're pushing through to the next paper. And you also want to make a strong indentation in the center of the page. So we're going to move into the dodecagon. And what you want to do is you go onto the next sheet of paper, and you want to take your compass and put the compass point in the center of the circle, right? And open your compass up to the width of those 12 dots, right? Now, if your compass does not open wide enough, don't worry about it. You don't actually need the circle. It's just a nice thing to do for the shape. But if you can open your compass, create that nice perimeter, that nice boundary. Okay, so you've got either 12 points or you've got a circle with 12 points. And now what we're going to do is you're going to start at the top and you're going to draw a line and connect the top point with every other point in the circle. All right, so making this pattern from this top point, right? Nice linear, structured, predictable progression. And once you've got that pattern, all stemming from that top central point, you want to go ahead and do the same thing from every single point until it looks like this. Okay? This shape is so much fun because after the first few points of origin, you start to feel the repetitive pattern and you've got the hang of what's actually happening. And so see if you can let go of the part that wants to focus and know what needs to happen. See if you can move into breathing with the shape and letting a meditative stance come in as you repeat the lines and repeat the pattern. And go ahead and pause me until you come back to this shape. Well done. You have just drawn the fundamental pattern of our universe. The next class is going to be Metatron's cube. We're going to look into the platonic solids and the influence of the elemental world, and we'll go further into the concept of energy and what it means to be able to access free energy sources and how we could change the entire paradigm of our reality, moving from scarcity and fear-based consciousness to one of abundance and unity consciousness. So I hope you'll continue to join me in this geometric adventure. Thank you so much. Hope to see you again.